On the eve of President Trump's deadline to impose tariffs on Mexico, the situation at the border has drastically changed. What were once crowded areas filled with migrants in cities like Ciudad Juárez, Tijuana, and Matamoros now appear empty. Shelters that used to overflow with people now house only a few families, and places that once served as makeshift camps are now abandoned, leaving behind only scattered personal belongings like dust-covered clothes and empty water bottles. Father William Morton, a missionary at a Ciudad Juárez cathedral that has long provided free meals to migrants, describes the shift as a complete stop. According to him, people are no longer attempting to cross. This dramatic decline in migration is reflected in official numbers. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security recently reported that only 200 people were apprehended at the southern border in a single day, marking the lowest figure in over 15 years. President Trump has credited this to his administration's strict immigration policies and the deployment of thousands of troops to secure the border. However, analysts suggest that Mexico's own efforts to curb migration have played a crucial role. Over the past year, Mexico has intensified its measures to control the flow of people traveling toward the U.S. These efforts include setting up checkpoints, imposing visa restrictions, breaking up migrant caravans, and relocating people arriving from countries like Venezuela to remote regions of southern Mexico to keep them from reaching the border. Since last spring, Mexican authorities have been apprehending more migrants than their American counterparts, resulting in a nearly 90% drop in the number of people attempting to reach the U.S. This shift has given Mexico a stronger negotiating position than it had in 2019 when Trump initially threatened tariffs. With the U.S. now dependent on Mexico's cooperation to control migration and combat fentanyl trafficking, Mexico has gained significant leverage in its dealings with Washington. The Biden administration's strict asylum policies have also contributed to the sharp decline in migration. Many migrants have given up on crossing and are either returning home or seeking asylum in Mexico instead. The impact of these policies is evident in border shelters, where meal tables sit empty and bunk beds remain unused. Many migrants who had previously relied on a U.S. government app to book asylum appointments lost hope after it was discontinued. With no clear path forward, some have moved deeper into Mexico, while others are simply waiting for a change in policy. The Mexican government has also responded to U.S. pressure by increasing military presence at the border. President Claudia Sheinbaum has deployed 10,000 National Guard members to reinforce security, along with hundreds of troops sent to combat drug trafficking in key regions like Sinaloa. Military personnel now patrol roads, inspect vehicles, and search for tunnels used for smuggling. While some believe these actions have deterred migration, others argue that migrants are simply finding new, less policed routes to enter the U.S. Despite the drop in border crossings, those who remain in shelters are growing increasingly desperate. Many migrants have no safe home to return to and fear deportation. Some have started seeking asylum in Mexico, hoping for legal status that would protect them from being forced out. Shelter operators report that their facilities, while emptier than before, are now housing people for longer periods, as migrants wait for a chance to either cross into the U.S. legally or build a life in Mexico. Even as migration numbers fall, the challenges persist. Some shelters are closing due to decreased international aid, which has been affected by U.S. policy changes. Humanitarian organizations that once supported these facilities, including the UN and UNICEF, have lost funding, leaving shelters struggling to provide for those who remain. Volunteers express concerns that without external support, even those migrants who have decided to stay in Mexico may find themselves without basic necessities. For many, hope still lingers. A Venezuelan man who traveled for months with his wife and 3 daughters to reach Ciudad Juárez now lives in a shelter, uncertain of what the future holds. He and others like him still believe that policy changes could offer them another chance to achieve their dream of entering the U.S. But as time passes, uncertainty grows, and for now, many migrants remain stuck in limbo, waiting to see what happens next.